In the beginning there was nothing. No sky, no land, no light, no time. Only a great silence. And then a voice. A voice that needed no shape, no breath, no origin. It spoke, and the universe obeyed. Let there be light. And light came bursting through the void, radiant and pure, slicing through the shadows. Darkness fled. Day and night were born. This was the first day. Then the voice separated the waters above from the waters below. A great dome formed. The sky, vast and endless, stretched across an empty world. That was the second day. On the third day, the waters beneath the sky pulled back, revealing dry land. Mountains rose, rivers carved through the soil. The land dressed itself in green, grasses, vines, flowers, forests. Fruit trees blossomed. Life bloomed. And God saw that it was good. On the fourth day, the heavens were lit. The sun blazed with golden fire to rule the day. The moon rose in silver to govern the night. Stars scattered like jewels across the deep canvas of the sky, countless and ancient. On the fifth day, the seas churned with life. Great whales surged through the waters. Fish darted like sparks beneath the waves. Above, the sky filled with birds, colorful, wild, and free. They cried out across the wind as the world awakened. Then came the sixth day. Creatures of every kind walked the earth. Lions in the grasslands, eagles above the cliffs, elephants in the valleys, and deer in the forest. But something was missing. So the voice reached down to the earth and formed a shape from dust and clay and breath. The figure rose, alive. This was Adam, the first man. He opened his eyes in a garden unlike anything else, Eden, a paradise where rivers sparkled and fruit hung heavy from the trees. But Adam was alone. And so from his side, God formed Eve, the first woman, not made from dust, but from living flesh. She opened her eyes, and the world was no longer empty. Together they walked in Eden, unashamed, innocent, and free. They laughed among the animals. They listened to the wind. And in the center of the garden, two trees stood. One gave life eternal. The other held the knowledge of good and evil. And they were told, "Eat freely from all, but touch not the tree of knowledge, for in that day you shall surely die." But deep within the branches, something watched, something ancient and proud, the serpent, and temptation was coming. The garden was perfect. The air was warm and sweet, the rivers clear as glass, and every tree bowed under the weight of fruit. In the center of the Garden of Eden stood two trees, one that gave life eternal and one that held the knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve walked freely among the beauty. They felt no shame, no fear. They were one with the earth and with their Creator. Each evening a cool breeze would drift through the garden, and in it, the presence of God would walk with them. But not all was as it seemed. Among the branches of the tree of knowledge, a creature waited, ancient, wise, and twisted. The serpent, more cunning than any of the beasts. And it whispered, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" Eve paused. The serpent's eyes gleamed. "We may eat of any tree," she said, "except the one in the middle. If we touch it or eat it, we will die." "You will not die," the serpent said smoothly. "God knows that when you eat it, your eyes will be opened. You will be like Him, knowing good and evil." The fruit glistened in the sunlight. Temptation, curiosity, pride, all stirred in Eve's heart. She reached out and took it. She ate. Then she gave it to Adam, who stood beside her, and he ate. In that moment, something shattered. Their eyes were opened, and they saw their own nakedness, not just of body, but of spirit. Innocence had fled. Guilt, shame, fear, these were new. And they could not bear them. They sewed together fig leaves to cover themselves, and hid among the trees when the voice of the Lord came walking through the garden. "Adam," he called, "where are you?" Adam stepped forward, trembling. "I heard you, and I was afraid, because I was naked, so I hid." "Who told you that you were naked?" the voice asked. "Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from?" Adam looked to Eve. "The woman you gave me, she gave me the fruit." And Eve said, "The serpent deceived me." The Lord looked upon them, not with hatred, but sorrow. To the serpent he said, "You are cursed above all creatures. You will crawl on your belly and eat dust, and one day the child of this woman will crush your head, though you will strike his heel." To the woman he said, "You will bear children in pain. You will long for your husband, and he will rule over you." To Adam, "Because you listened and ate what was forbidden, the ground is cursed. You will toil for your food. Thorns and thistles will rise. From dust you came, to dust you will return." And then God did something strange. He clothed them, not in leaves, but in garments of animal skin. A life had been taken to cover their shame. Finally, he drove them out of Eden. A flaming sword flashed at the entrance, and angels were set to guard the way to the tree of life. The gates of paradise closed behind them. They stepped into a broken world, but not a hopeless one, because in the curse there had been a promise. A son would come, and one day he would make all things right again. East of Eden, in a world no longer perfect, the first family began. Adam and Eve, now clothed and wandering the earth, bore children, 2 sons. The first was Cain, a worker of the soil, strong, quiet, restless. The second was Abel, a keeper of sheep, gentle, joyful, thoughtful. They lived side by side, both shaped by the fall, both still carrying the image of God. And in time, they brought offerings. Abel brought the best of his flock, the firstborn, spotless and full of life. He laid it upon the altar with reverence, and his heart burned with gratitude. Cain brought fruits of the earth, a harvest of his labor. But his heart was different. Something clenched and guarded. His hands gave, but his spirit withheld. And the Lord looked upon Abel's offering with favor, but Cain's he did not accept. Cain's face darkened. The Lord spoke to him gently. "Why are you angry? Why has your face fallen? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." But Cain did not listen. He invited his brother to the field. The sky was clear. The wind was still. And then Cain rose up and struck Abel down. Blood soaked the earth. The ground cried out to God, and God answered, "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain looked away. "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" But God already knew. "Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground," he said. "You are cursed from the earth, which opened its mouth to receive his blood. You will wander, you will be restless, and the land will no longer yield its strength to you." Cain cried out, "My punishment is too great. Anyone who finds me will kill me." But even then, God showed mercy. He placed a mark on Cain, a divine shield, not of approval, but of protection. No one would take vengeance. And so Cain went out from the presence of the Lord. He built a city. He had children. But the shadow of his brother's blood followed him always. And Eve, in her grief, bore another son, Seth, a new beginning, a flicker of hope. And in those days, people began to call upon the name of the Lord once again. Generations passed. Adam's children had children, and those children had more. The world filled with people, but not with peace. Violence grew like weeds in the soil. Hearts turned hard. Men forgot the voice that had once walked with them in the garden. And the Lord looked upon the earth. He saw corruption, Every thought of man's heart was bent toward evil, always. He was grieved. The Creator mourned his creation. But there was one man. His name was Noah. He walked with God when no one else did. Righteous, blameless, faithful in a crooked world. And God spoke to Noah, "The end of all flesh has come before me. Make for yourself an ark of wood, a great vessel sealed tight, for I will bring a flood upon the earth to wash it clean." Noah listened. He built the ark year after year, while others laughed. They mocked the boat, the warnings, the strange man hammering salvation into planks. But Noah obeyed. He gathered the animals, 2 by 2. Birds, beasts, crawling things. His wife, his sons, and their wives entered the ark. And then the rain came. The sky opened, the earth cracked. Waters burst from the deep. For 40 days and 40 nights, the flood swallowed the world. Mountains vanished, cities drowned, the laughter stopped. Only the ark remained, drifting on an endless sea, alone, waiting. And then, silence. The rain ceased. The waters began to retreat. Months passed. Then one day the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat. A raven flew. A dove returned with an olive leaf. And God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you and your family. Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth again." Noah stepped out onto dry ground. He built an altar and offered thanks. The scent rose to heaven. And God made a promise. Never again would he destroy the earth with a flood. And as a sign, he placed a rainbow in the sky, a covenant of mercy painted in light. The earth had been washed, but man's heart would still wrestle with darkness, and the story was far from over. The earth began to fill again. From Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, came nations and tribes. People spread across valleys and rivers, building homes, farming soil, raising children. But still, they carried the pride of Eden. In the land of Shinar, where the plains rolled flat and wide, they gathered. They spoke one language, shared one purpose, and their hearts whispered, "Let us build a city and a tower, one that reaches the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, so we will not be scattered." They baked bricks and laid them in perfect lines, stone upon stone, higher and higher. The tower grew. It pierced the clouds, a monument not to God, but to man. But the Lord looked down. He saw the city, the tower, the pride behind every brick. And he said, "If they are united in speech and purpose, nothing they imagine will be withheld from them. Let us go down and confuse their language." And so he did. The workers shouted to one another, but their words broke apart, their tongues splintered. Confusion spread like wildfire. They could no longer build, no longer understand, no longer stay. And so they scattered, from Shinar to the mountains, from rivers to deserts. Families moved in every direction. Tribes became nations. Languages were born. The tower was left unfinished, a monument not to man's greatness, but to the limits of human pride. It was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the earth, and once more the people were sent outward. But in the chaos, God was preparing something new. For from among the scattered, he would call one man and begin a new promise, a nation, a covenant, a blessing to all the world. In the land of Ur, where idols stood in every home and false gods ruled the hearts of men, there lived a man named Abram. He was not a king, not a prophet, just a man, but God chose him. One night, beneath the stars, the voice of the Lord came to him, silent, invisible, undeniable. "Leave your country. Leave your father's house. Go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and through you all nations will be blessed. And Abram obeyed. He left the city. He left comfort, security, tradition. He followed the voice through deserts, valleys, and hills to a land he had never seen. With him went his wife, Sarai, and his nephew Lot. They brought only what they had: flocks, tents, and faith. When they reached the land of Canaan, God spoke again, "To your descendants I will give this land." But years passed. There was famine, conflict, separation, still no child. And Abram asked the question every heart eventually whispers: "How, Lord? How will I know?" One night, God led Abram outside. "Look at the sky," he said. "Count the star, if you can. So shall your descendants be." And Abram believed him. That faith, not strength, not perfection, was counted to him as righteousness. Then God made a covenant, not with thunder or fire, but with sacrifice and promise. He passed through the darkness himself, sealing the vow, and from that moment history bent. A childless wanderer became the father of nations. A man with no land was promised a kingdom. And from his line, through the centuries, would come the one who would bless all people. But that story was still waiting.